Welcome to everyone that's tuning in to watch my opinions and review of Monday, June 22nd, 2020, Exeter Township Board of Supervisors meeting. This opinion piece is going to be a little bit longer than usual because I'm going to present some slides and perhaps some movie clips to help get my point across. So, but we're going to address 4 of the agenda items on this meeting. And the first one I'm going to talk about is going to be, I'm going to present some really disturbing information on our treasury report. You know, I think you'll find this quite interesting, considering the situation that we find ourselves in financially. The second thing I'll discuss is the board's intentions to buy additional real estate and develop this real estate down near Trout Run. I will also discuss the third item, which is you'll hear the board's discussion on the meetings for July, what they plan to do, what they see going on in the future. And finally, the fourth item that I'm going to talk about, which I find to be the most fascinating, is the public comment period where you'll see Mr. Speece interrupt a comment that's being played from me. And they have almost an 11-minute discussion on my comments and their opinion on what's going on. So we're going to visit these one by one, and I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the information that I'm going to present to you. Here's a slide that is taken from the Treasury report for the month ending May 31st. This was made available. It's on the website, Exeter Township website. They approved this Treasury report at the meeting on June 22nd, but they do not go into detail. They never do, and that's a mistake because things are happening in the township that I think the public should know about. I'm not even sure that some of the supervisors know about this. But here what I'm showing you is the engineering and zoning department, and you can see with a small arrow in the right corner that what you're seeing is that they're almost 68% over budget overall for the department. But look at the line item called consulting services. $40,000 budget, but we've spent almost $227,000 for consulting services. In excess of almost $187,000 over budget. 467% over budget, and we're not even through half the year. Now, what's more disturbing, I think, is the fact that none of the supervisors discuss this. There's absolutely zero discussion. You go look at any meeting video, you go read any of the minutes that they have, and you will not find one discussion concerning this particular situation. We're going over budget. We need approval. There should be supervisor approval to exceed the budget by this much, but you hear no talk about it. And it's for several reasons. We have an accounting department that's not experienced enough to understand what management reporting is. We've had 2 managers, Michelle Gilbert and Clarence Ham, who should have been looking at this and bringing it to the board's attention in one of the meetings. And the board's responsibility should have been to look into these overages and either stop the spending or give legitimate reasons for approving it. but they're too busy doing other things. And this is a very critical part of what our supervisors and our staff in the township should be doing. What happens when we go over budget like this? Well, it's very simple. The money has to come from somewhere. And in these trying times, we know that because of the circumstances, we may not collect as much as 30% of the revenue that we projected to obtain through taxes and primarily through earned income taxes that we expected. So the money has to come from somewhere, and that means that we're spending $187,000 of money coming from the sewer plant sale. So we're sucking this out of our accounts, and no one's talking about it. There's no management in our financial area. None. Zero. And there's no oversight. So this is a fact. I'm presenting it to you. It cannot be disputed. And we have to ask the question, what are our supervisors doing? What are our managers doing? Now, Michelle Gilbert's gone. We can't hold her accountable. Clarence Ham is still here. And the last meeting, he was still the manager of the township. And this over budget item didn't happen in 1 week. So I'm very concerned about what our board is doing. And we'll have more about that, but this is for you to look at and consider the situation. Now, this department's not the only one that has this problem, particularly for the consulting services expense. In the Administration Finance Department, they're 223% over budget for consulting services. Administration, Human Resources, and Risk Management, they are 500% over budget for consulting services. You know, this over expenditure, we could have hired two engineers full time if and spare the future expenses, because this is at the end of the consulting services. And it's an indication, to me at least, that we have hired people that do not know how to do their job. So to compensate for the lack of experience and knowledge, we've got to pay these consulting fees. There's also another aspect to this that I want to talk about, and of course all of this is my opinion. It's my opinion, and this is one way that our corrupt officials can siphon off taxpayer money by hiring consultants and paying them exorbitant salaries or consulting fees. This is how it's done, legally and with the public normally being unaware of it. But you can't claim ignorance now. No one can, because here it is, and here it will continue until we straighten things out in this township. But it's been quite a while, quite some time. The Trailhead, and the trail is not really Exeter, as I understand. It's more of a county-wide biking, walking trail. So my concerns are, our finances. As I've demonstrated to you, our spending is completely out of control. No one is looking at it. No one is talking about it. The management of the township is in total confusion. If you look at how they discuss this particular item on the agenda, it's very confusing. Everybody's talking. There's no level of coordination, and it's difficult to understand really what the objectives are. And when you listen to them, they have the realtor, who's the Turk, is looking at the numbers, so he's going to get a piece of the action. Our solicitor, of course, he's involved in this at $250 an hour, okay? And he mentions that we're looking at 3 parcels, not 2 parcels. And they also mentioned the master plan. How many of you out there know that they have this master plan for Trout Run, and they plan on spending $10 million? That's right. $10 million on a mosquito-infested park. So, I'm not going to make any judgment on that right now, but think about that. They talk about the next step, which is to discuss with the owners about selling it to us. And Mr. Gibraltar makes a motion to negotiate the purchase of these parcels. So this isn't a fact-finding effort. He made the motion, seconded by Cusatis, to negotiate the purchase of these parcels. Now, Michelle brought up some good points. She wants to know if it's going to be used for trucks. You know, what's the intent of buying these parcels and building this road? Well, Clarence Ham assures us, well, we don't have to allow trucks in there. There won't be any trucks. And it's basically, he's concerned about parking for the trail. Well, why should we residents be concerned about that trail parking right now? It's the county's. But that's his concern. And maybe it's a good idea down the road, but today it's not. Because, again, Cusatis mentions the master plan. But I think that the master plan, in my opinion, involves other things that they're not telling us about. Now, if you look at the master development plan of the whole township, and if you were to realize, and it's available at ExeterUnited.com, you can look at this plan, they want to build a waterfront community on that 120 acres of contaminated coal parcel that sits between Trout Run and guess who? Mascaro's property, where he parks all of his garbage trucks, including the ones that don't run anymore. So this road will give them the ability to build, you would think their plan is to build this waterfront community, and we're not going to have money for that. But it also will give Mr. Mascaro easier access to his property where he's got all these garbage trucks there. And I think that's why Michelle Kircher asked the question about truck traffic. And Clarence admits that we can do anything we want to do, and it can always change. And as long as certain people have control of the Board of Supervisors and exercise a lot of influence, there's no doubt in my mind that you'll see garbage trucks driving down that road. And this is something that could be debated later. I don't know why we're spending money on this. It could be noted. But I think this whole project here should be tabled until we could get our finances, our house in order, understand what's going on, because we're going to have significantly reduced revenue because of COVID-19. And as I've said before, others have mentioned about possibly as much as 30% less revenue than we normally have. So that means digging into the funds from the sewer plant again. So they want to buy these 3 parcels and then they want to develop them. Do we really have the money to spend right now to do that? So I'm not going to pass judgment on whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. All I'm saying is that for now, this thing should be tabled, dead on arrival, DOA, and brought up at a later time when we have a better understanding of our revenue and how we really want to spend this $40 million that is really burning a hole in their pockets. So think about that, and I'd love to hear your opinions regarding this agenda item. And you'll note that they did pass it. They passed the motion anyway. And again, the motion was not to get information. Greg's motion was to negotiate purchase of these parcels. So you've got to be very careful when you when you form a motion, it can mean a lot of things. And in this case, it basically has given our solicitor, whoever's working with the realtor, the opportunity to go out there and they can negotiate the purchase price right now. I think it's a mistake. One thing the solicitor did say, that talking about price and other information should be done at a public meeting. And of course, you'll find out later that I get the impression that Spies and Cusatis are going to try as much as they can not to hold public meetings until 2021. Thanks. Okay, the third of the four issues I want to talk about, have a conversation with you on, is their discussion and ultimate decision on authorizing the July meetings for the public. Once again, quite a bit of babble, and I would call it misdirection and their personal agenda. So what they talk about is basically the issue with the modified green. On June 26th, we opened up, and the governor had certain rules. I mean, restaurants can open up now. They can have 50% occupancy. Hair salons, I finally got a haircut. Nail salons, massage parlors, all these places are opening up, and they're going, like some of the restaurants, like the Exeter restaurant, I'm sure they're going to have over 100 and plus people going in and out of that every day. So this shouldn't be an issue, having a public meeting where, for the most part, maybe 35 people attend at a time. And the Reading Country Club facility may not be the perfect venue for a meeting, but it will suffice for now. And your first concern, Mr. Spies, should be to provide the public access to your meetings. But as the people who watch this video will see, you and Mr. Cusatis come up with excuse after excuse after excuse. And there's really no excuse. And I'll hit on some of them, but I want to try to be as brief on this as I can because it's idiotic that we're even talking about this. But I think you must open up to the public now. And, you know, Cusatis motions to go virtual, and he's seconded immediately by Gibraltar. And of course that motion ends up passing. And then we start talking about long-term stuff. But you haven't even worked on solving the issues of the intercom or the public address system. And this is an issue that has gone on for years. Even in the old meeting room, we couldn't hear you speak. You'd have these little mics at your mouth, and all you had to do was turn your head, and the public can't hear you, even in that small, compressed meeting room. So you're not doing your job. Absolutely not doing your job. Cusatis likes to say, well, we're not going to take any advice from people off the street. And I guess he's referring to the people that made the public comments about opening up. We're going to listen to the governor and CDC. Well, the governor 3 months ago restricted everyone. We had to stay in the house. Now the governor has opened up modified green on June 26th. And as I mentioned, we could go into restaurants now. You've got to wear a mask entering. You've got to watch the distancing. But we're opened up now. And the governor says it's okay to have up to, 50 people or 250 people in a room? And we have plenty of that space at the Reading Country Club. And now all of a sudden, Mr. Cusatis is worried about the cost of sanitizing the room after everybody leaves. I wish he would have worried about cost when he spent over $4 million fighting over a simple liquor license, or the $200,000 that we spent when the federal government brought a lawsuit against us. Didn't really care about cost then, did you? But if it has to do with allowing the public to attend and participate in the supervisors' meetings, you're going to shut us out as long as you can. You talk about PSATs as if it's the Bible, as if it's the law. It's just an organization to provide information for supervisors, nothing more and nothing less. And we'll use PSATs in the next agenda item as well. But there's no need to prohibit public meetings. Now, I took this a little further than you did, and I didn't hear anyone mention anything about what is the communities around us doing. You know, how are they handling all this? I don't know if the staff doesn't talk to these people. I don't know if the supervisors ever reach out to other communities. But here's what I did. I called 8 surrounding communities: Cumru, Amity, Birdsboro, Robison, Mount Penn, St. Lawrence, Alsace, and Lower Alsace. And what I find out is that pretty much every single one of them are opening to the public in July, unless their meeting room constrains the distancing requirements. And there's a few of them that have that problem. But let's take a look at them one by one real quick. Cumru, and I'm going to break it up in their administration area and then how they handle public meetings. Cumru's been open always. They never closed. Their administration building has been open, never closed. Their public meeting room, their public meetings have not been closed. They've always been open. And they have a large room to accommodate meetings. So they instituted the mask and the distancing. And that's really the key requirements of this modified green, Dave. Amity Township, they open up their administration building the 3rd week in June. And their public meetings are open. Now, they had to move them from their normal meeting room to the fire station. Not the best place to hold a meeting, but they've done everything they can to accommodate the public, because the public is who you serve, believe it or not. Let me remind you about that. But they hold their public meetings now in the fire station, and of course you have to wear masks and the same thing with the distancing. Birdsboro plans to open up their borough after they go the modified green. And they're going to continue on Zoom because they simply do not have a meeting room that can accommodate the distancing requirements. But they told me that if they had such a place, they would have those meetings. Robison, basically, they've had their administration building open the whole time with some limitations. You could go there, but you have to have an appointment. Or if you show up during the office hours, knock on the door, if there are not too many people in there, they'll accommodate you as long as you're wearing a mask. They had Zoom meetings, but they're going to discuss opening up for the July meetings at their next meeting. Mount Penn, they're going to open up their administration building on July 6th. They're also going to open up to the public their public meetings. They're not sure, but they're discussing that. St. Lawrence has they've always been open, but it's a modified situation. You make an appointment or you show up at the door. If you're wearing a mask, they'll typically let you in. Their last meeting on June 11th was open to the public. Open to the public. And their next meeting will be on July 9th. And they expect that to also be open to the public. Alsace, they they've been working from home, but they're going to reopen their administration building on the Monday following June 26th when we go modified green. Wednesday, July 1st, they have a meeting, and that's going to be open to the public. Finally, Lower Alsace. Lower Alsace, they're going to open their administration building on Friday or Monday. They have 3 supervisors, by the way. It's a little bit different than us. They have been doing Zoom on their public meetings, but they're going to be open up to the public in July. So there you have it. All the communities around us, the people that they've elected to manage their communities are working very hard to make sure that they're always available to the public. Now, I want everyone to consider what our elected officials are doing. In my own mind, in my opinion, we've got 2 dictators on the board, Mr. Spies and Mr. Cusatis, who control everything. Now, I know some people out there will say I'm making it personal, but the Board of Supervisors are managing my community. They're spending my tax dollars. They're going to collect more tax dollars from me. All right, they're going to pass ordinances that affect me. Should I take that personally? I think so. I think everyone in this community should take this personally. So here I've done a little work. It didn't take long to get this information. Everyone I called up was very accommodating, very nice to me. I don't get the animosity that I get from the group we have here. And in fact, there were a few, I won't mention which ones, but a few of them, when they found out that I was from Exeter, because I didn't hide who I was, I told them what I was looking for, and they apologized for the fact that I have to live in this township with the political bullshit that we have to put up with here. So I think, take a look at this, think about all the other communities around us that are trying to accommodate their residents, and then compare that to what Dave Spies and John Cusatis want to do. If they have it their way, they will keep us in virtual meetings until the end of the year at least. Let's not allow them to do that. Let's send in your emails. Their email addresses are on the township website. Tell them you're not happy about their decision. It doesn't make any sense. We could go into the restaurant and eat now. We could go get haircuts. But we can't attend a township meeting? I don't know where your heads are, gentlemen and lady, but there's no way that we should be preventing the public from attending the meetings now. Your moment of glory and sequestering is at an end. Open the meetings. You hear me, Mr. Spies? Open the meetings. And if I have to say please, I will. Please, Mr. Spies, open the meetings. You work for the public, and I hope that you'll start remembering this. Here we have a document that's from PSAT's policy statement, and this is significant because what we're finding out is the current Board of Supervisors put a lot of weight in PSAT policy. They're not a legal entity. They have no legal authority over anyone. They're just an organization that provides good information to supervisors. So I just want to make this point that since they're very much into following what PSAT tells them to do, this is essential information for them. And I think you'll see that I've just underlined an essential component. And this has to do with citizen participation in the public meetings, the supervisors' meetings, and they make it clear. PSAT says that they should encourage and facilitate participation to the greatest extent possible. So to me, what that means is that if they can, by any means, be able to hold the public meetings so that the public can attend, that's what they should do. Now, what's even more critical, and I'm not sure that the supervisors know this. I don't know if the staff educated them or if they read this PSAT's policy statement, but they should take a look at this, because it's clear. PSAT says it should be noted that local elected and appointed public officials, locally elected, are subject to far more stringent requirements for open meetings and public participation than the state legislature and the Commonwealth agencies. So I don't know what this means to them or to you, but to me it means that, for example, I talked about the surrounding 8 communities. So in July, if they follow through with what they've told me they're going to do, and they hold public meetings, and they have the public attend those meetings, except where it's restricted by the meeting room size, which we have a large room in the RCC. So if everybody else is holding meetings and allowing the public to attend, and our supervisors and our government here in Exeter Township restricts us and prevents us from attending public meetings, well, what does that mean then? What does that say about our elected officials? But more importantly, what I plan on doing, if the surrounding communities do hold public meetings and have the public in attendance, I expect that I will file a complaint with the Berks County District Attorney's Office and with the State Attorney General's Office, because obviously they are not doing the best they can to follow the Sunshine Law. And PSAT's, they would be in disagreement with PSAT's policy statements as well. I'd like your opinion on this. Please check in and tell me what your thoughts are. Let's go to the fourth item on the agenda, the final item that I want to discuss. And it happens near the end of the meeting during the public comment non-agenda section. And I seriously urge you to go to that part of the meeting and listen to it a couple times. It's just under 11 minutes long, and I'll have it indexed so that you can just click on the time. You don't have to try to hunt for it in the video. You can go right to it. But what happens is they play my comment. The robot reads my words, and partially, just at the beginning of my comment, Mr. Speece interrupts my comment. He asks them to stop it, and he starts talking about how this is inappropriate because I'm attacking them all the time, and they're getting tired of it. It's got to stop. And so Mr. Speece interrupts it so that he can interject his comments. And what subsequently occurs is this 11-minute discussion with Mr. Speece, Mr. Cusatis, and the rest of the board. And Mr. Speece and Mr. Cusatis accused me of attacking them. In fact, you can hear Mr. Cusatis exclaim, "He has attacked all of us. He's attacked you, Dave." Well, you know, my comments are directed towards the issues. On occasions, I do make opinions about how you elected officials are handling those issues, and also, very rarely, but sometimes, about your behavior. And my specific issues are with one particular supervisor, Mr. Cusatis, whose behavior is abhorrent. And I think it's important to understand that elected officials should expect this kind of criticism. It comes with the territory. In fact, if you're listening to what I'm saying and you're reading the slide that I have in front of you, it's very clear. The First Amendment allows us to do that. In fact, there are some restrictions on freedom of speech, but not where it concerns citizens and a political entity. There's I can't think of any restrictions other than threatening them, and that's not what we're doing. We're criticizing them, and we're expressing our opinion. And as you can see, it's clear, and I've said this before, it's our civic duty to do this, and that's why ExeterUnited.com has been created. This is for public oversight. It's for us to keep an eye on our public officials, because if you consider the political environment in Pennsylvania and the way it's structured, we're giving the responsibility to elect a supervisor. Once they're elected, they have very incredible amounts of power. And of course, with power goes responsibility. Sometimes that responsibility and power is abused. And the only thing that's missing in the formula is accountability. So who holds our 5 supervisors accountable for what they do? Not the county, not the state. They're not watching them. So it's really left up to the citizens who elected them and the citizens who live in the township. And that's why I created Exeter.com, ExeterUnited.com. This is for you. It's not a commercial site. I'm not making any money off of it. It's strictly for our community to have public oversight over these officials. And you can see they're not used to having this public oversight occurring, because I'm consistent about it, and I'm going to continue doing this. And we're going to talk about the issues that they bring up, the items on the agenda each 2 weeks that they have the meeting, and we'll talk about their behavior and what they've decided to do. Now, Mr. Speece and Mr. Cusatis thinks that this must stop. And I think that this whole thing was planned by both of them, because there's only one, I don't know of any other time where a comment was stopped. Well, it's one time when Mr. Cusatis threw me out of the meeting because of his interpretation of what I was saying. But Mr. Speece and Mr. Cusatis think that this must stop. And if I understand the discussion correctly, Mr. Speece and Mr. Cusatis want to squash the comment, and they are also suggesting that there be a motion to do this. And following this, in this discussion, they suggest that everyone who comes before the board must address their opinions or their comments to the whole board, and we are not allowed to say their names. And we mustn't attack them. So I guess we're supposed to just say nice things when we come before the board. So even one of Mr. Cusatis' friends, who is a former board member, suggests that there's 5 or 6 individuals who are making public comments all the time, and that we should ignore them because they're the minority. Well, you know, our system was designed to protect the minority. And it looks like Mr. Speece and Mr. Cusatis and his former colleague on the board seems to be discriminating against the minority. You know, when you listen to this conversation, this 11-minute conversation, you come away with the idea, I think, at least in my opinion, that it's foolishness, it's nonsense what they're talking about. We have the right to speak. We have a civil duty to do that. And I don't know if Mr. Speece spent too much time in China, 12 years over there, and over there they're very restrictive. You got to be very careful what you say. But Mr. Speece, you're in America now. You're in the United States. You could chill out and start to recognize that we have those types of freedoms that other nations do not have. And I suggest that the whole board go back and refresh their memory on the First Amendment, including perhaps a civil rights, a civics class is in order. So enough of that nonsense. They're not going to stop us from giving opinions and criticizing the government and mentioning their names if we want to. But I do want to point out that Greg Galtier articulated the main point of my comment. And you should listen to what he has to say. He has a short dialogue in there, but what he says is very important. And he basically agrees, understands what I was saying, that I was talking about the bad behavior. And Mr. Staub also talks about the animosity that he felt when he was out in the public before he was a supervisor. And he's not the only one that's said that. We had a school board member who spoke before the board and described the same type of thing. And I really thought, I'm really surprised about Mr. Speece because I thought he was a better man than that, and it appears that Mr. Cusatis' influence over him is pretty strong. But when Mr. Speece calls the question, whether we're going to have a motion or not, immediately Mr. Staub says, I'd like to hear the rest of the comment. And Mr. Galtier, Greg Galtier, says the same thing. Well, immediately, Mr. Speece said, okay. He didn't even query Ms. Kircher because he obviously knew at that point he was not going to get that third vote he needed to squash my comment. So, this kind of behavior, the attacks that occur, I'm going to follow this up with 3 or 4 short video clips that will support the 3 words that I put in quotations. And I put them in quotations because they're facts. And Mr. Cusatis calls one of his colleagues wrong. And you'll hear that video clip. Also, he calls a private citizen a liar. And you'll hear that clip. And then you'll hear where he tells Mr. Riley that his information is falsehoods. And I just want you to understand something. You know, Mr. Cusatis has some very serious problems. I think his behavior is basically triggered by a fragile ego. And he has a complete intolerance of criticism. And when this happens, he has a tendency to belittle other people. He does it very, very often, you'll find. He belittles other people because it helps validate his own superiority. And when you listen to the videotapes, the video clips that I'm providing, I want you to remember that when he belittles Ms. Kircher, this is a woman who's over 60. You know, she's got close to 20 years on Mr. Cusatis in experience. She has been on the board, she served 2 6-year terms on the board. She's also spent 15, 20 or more years as an executive secretary for one of the county's commissioners. And then you'll see where he calls me a liar. I'm the one that he calls a liar in the clip. I've got over 4 years of experience in finance and accounting. I'm a certified management accountant. I'm a certified financial manager. And so he attacks me. And then Mr. Riley, he's the 3rd clip where he attacks Mr. Riley and claims that all of his information are full of falsehoods. Well, you should know that Mr. Riley is a retired accounting professor from Albright College, and he is also a certified public accountant. And
in my opinion, you started at the wrong place, because there should have been many studies done prior to see if that you even have the right location. There should have been discussion, open discussion with each department that's needed. We don't even know if everything can fit up there. And also, we didn't have COVID-19 and other things that changed the way every business is going to be doing business, including townships. If anybody read the paper yesterday, on Sunday, it has financial minefield. And that's really going to affect every business, every township, from the lowest all the way up to the top. And I think that we're just going too fast. We have to step back, start over, and see what I really need, and if we should be spending all this money at this time.
As I said, Michelle, last week, there was ways that we had this figured out. There was vision. There was a lot of good things that I think Mr. Granger would have done well with. So you're wrong. So I'll just leave it at that.
I don't.
is that we have certain people who want to sell it. This guy down here.
Hey, that's a lie. Stop lying.
Thank you for barely including my general comment at the very end of the last meeting. If I were a conspiracist, I might think it was a topic you didn't want to discuss. After hearing David Hughes' comments at the last meeting where he mentioned the word falsehoods by Mr. Cusatis, you, Mr. Speece, asked for comments. Mr. Cusatis said he emailed me the falsehoods I had made. His email contained his usual diatribe but did not disclose any falsehoods in my comments to the board a few weeks ago. You seem to accept offhand comments by board members as gospel without any proof.
And he could disagree with my falsehoods, but I gave him what I told him was wrong. It's what makes this country great.
Yes.
If he could disagree, but it is what it is. I pointed out where he was wrong.
Yeah, and this board is made up of individuals, and we.
So we've covered a lot of material that's all related to the June 22nd, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting. So let's go back and just do a real quick review of what we talked about. So the first thing we talked about was the overspending and the fact that there's no oversight on the budget. We had a budget of $40,000 for outside services, consulting services. At the end of May 31st, not even a half a year, we spent over $226,000, exceeding the budget without any controls, no discussion. You won't find it in the minutes or in any videos. It was just spent without board approval. Can you imagine if we overrun every budget item like this? So clearly there's no control. Then the second thing we talked about is the purchasing additional parcels of land down near Trout Run. Depending on who you hear it from, it's 2 or 3 different parcels. And good or bad, I'm not going to make a judgment, but I don't think this is the right time to do this. It's more of a want than a need. And we already have things going, big projects that they haven't really addressed. They need to refurbish the beautiful building at our Reading Country Club. That's been left dormant for many years. And I think we're going to look at quite several $100,000 in repairs that need to be made before we can open it up for food, beverage, and banquets. But nothing's happening with that, or very, very little is happening. And then we have the promenade. You know, this is the cement shoes that our community is in right now. It's going to drag us down, and if you've heard the comments from other meetings, they're confused. They're not sure what to do. They don't have enough information. The purchase of this and what it was going to be used for was very poorly planned or conceived. The third thing we talked about are public meetings. They've decided they're not going to open up the administration building for another month, all of July, and they're not going to have public meetings where we can attend for the whole month of July. Yet all of the communities around us, as I've discussed earlier here, are opening up their administration building, and they're going to have public meetings where the public can attend. 6 of the 8 communities are. 2 of them, they obviously don't have enough room to do the distancing. But those communities that can do it, they're making the attempt to allow the public in, but not Exeter Township. And then finally, the suppression of the public comments and the animosity displayed by 2 of our supervisors towards the public. Why are they trying to suppress public comment to the point where they're actually suggesting that we cannot say their name when we do our public comments at the meetings or in our written submissions to them now? What are they hiding? What are they afraid of? So I want you to think about that. I've said enough about it right now, but it's probably one of the most dramatic areas that I covered in this meeting. You have to wonder about the poor judgment that these 2 supervisors exhibit by doing such a thing, and you can see that the other 3 supervisors did not agree with them. So I want to wrap this up and say simply, watching the video of this meeting, you can't help but see the disorder and the confusion present in our Board of Supervisors. And this is consistent with all of the meetings this year. The leadership is questionable. The self-interest that is obvious is seen. And they want to completely shut the public down. So I sincerely want you to watch all of this, maybe more than once, and form your own opinion. That's very important that you do that. And this information can be viewed at exeterunited.com. You can also see it at my YouTube channel. All you need to do is do a search for Exeter Township Supervisor meetings. Sometimes you can also search on their names, like John Cusatis or David Speece. That will come up. Also, you can try Exeter Township corruption. Those will get you some of the videos as well. So I encourage you to go and watch some of these. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll get an alert each time I post something. And now, following my opinions that you've just watched, you can also watch now in its entirety the June 22nd, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting. Thank you for listening to me.
I'd like to call to order the Monday, June 22nd meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one
nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take roll call. Mr. Galtier?
Here.
Ms. Kircher?
Here.
Mr. Staub?
Here.
And Mr. Cusatis?
Here.
And I'm here, Dave Speece. So we're all there. Guess we're going to start with public comments. And one reminder for the general meeting, let's just, remember that we are in virtual meeting, so let everyone finish their thought and try not to interrupt others, so the public can hear. I've had a couple comments that it gets a little confusing if multiple people are talking at once, so we'll try to do better on that. So public comments, Laurie.
All right. We have 3. The first comment. First comment is from Vinny Bianconi. And he is commenting on agenda item, the advertisement of July Board of Supervisors meetings.
Good evening. This is in reference to the item of having virtual meetings in July. One find that to be a smart decision. With the county going in green, it doesn't mean we are in the clear. No restrictions have changed. It only allows more places to be allowed to open up. I saw someone has stated on Nextdoor that we should have meetings in the RCC ballroom. What they failed to realize is the amount of cleaning prior to the meeting and the disinfecting that will have to happen after the meeting. Every single item will have to be cleaned. It doesn't matter if anyone touched it or not. Thank you for keeping the safety of the residents in mind.
That was the end of that one.
Thanks. I'm going to mention one thing. I mean, we had a comment last meeting just about trying to do the public comments at the same time as that agenda item. And the way we're doing the meeting right now, if we were doing them live, that would probably be a little easier to hold that person. But remembering to do that and labeling them in is a little confusing. So I don't know if anyone disagrees with that. But I mean, I think we can remember what the comments are on agenda items.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, I think our flow is good right now, the virtual way.
Okay. Go ahead, Lauren.
Okay, the next comment is from John Carmello. And he did send, he's touching on 3 different agenda items. The format of the email is going to require me to play them one by one, so I'll let you know when each one finishes.
Okay.
First comment is in reference to the treasurer's report.
On page 2, under wastewater sale proceeds, future expenses shows an amount of $14 million. Please provide details.
And his next comment, you just let me know if you want me to stop. His second comment is
I could make maybe a comment on that, maybe
Okay.
Jeff can comment as well. And just in general that, this is public comment and Q&A, it's not public Q&A. It's sometimes difficult to have the details on hand when someone asks something like that, but I think we can get that information to the person, but it's kind of sometimes difficult to do that offhand during the meeting.
Am I okay to go with the second one?
Mhm.
Okay, so his next comment is in reference to the second item under unfinished business, the Gibraltar Road Scenic River Trail parcel.
How can the board continue to spend money on future projects when they don't know the effect of the COVID pandemic on the current budget and what the shortfall will be? The board's callous disregard exhibited for this problem is tantamount to misfeasance. Spending of this kind should be put on hold until the board knows the impact and can make a decision based on factual knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, and
Any comments from anybody? And then
Nope.
we're going to discuss that when we
Mhm.
get there.
okay, and then his final comment on the agenda is in reference to advertisement of the Board of Supervisors meetings for July.
Why is the board still opting for virtual meetings? The county is going green on July 3rd, a full 10 days before the next meeting. In addition, the RCC ballroom is large enough to provide social distancing. The virtual meetings may be convenient for the board, but it is unfair to the residents who wish to participate directly in these meetings. I, for one, am unhappy with the computer misrepresenting my words. I remind the supervisors that respect is a two-way street.
That's the end of his.
Okay.
Okay, to move on to the next one?
Yep, unless anyone has comments, I think we'll talk about that.
All right, so the last comments are from David Hughes, and I will play his. He's commenting on two items. The first one is the board meetings, the July meetings, and the second is a question on disbursements.
The governor announced recently that Berks County will go green on Friday, June 26th. Clearly, the agenda item to authorize virtual meetings for July is not warranted. It is time to return to normal. The only question remaining is, has the board and administration solved the audio problems that have plagued the meeting in the past? This was a problem in the old meeting space and remains a problem regardless where you hold these meetings. My suspicion is that you have not addressed this issue. It remains another on a long list of issues unresolved.
Okay.
And his second comment, if you're okay with me moving on to that, is regarding disbursements.
A zoning and planning consulting service budgeted $40,000, but actual expenses are $226, 993.05. Please explain.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I
was going to say, it's on, there's one of the, on the zoning, our budgeted amount is for the year. I said something to Jen about it as well. It's 40,000 for the year, and year to date we're like 226,000. So it's just an explanation of why it's so far over the budget expenses to what we originally planned. That was his question.
Okay.
Dave, would you like me to respond?
Yeah, sure, Jen.
No problem.
Thanks, Jen.
We had significant expenses this year, some larger expenses, I should say, for the Procurement Avenue project, and also some traffic signal upgrades with McMahon and Associates.
And some of those were part of the grant process, right? I believe, Clarence, and
The planning stage is not part of the grant process. That is on us.
okay.
Only the construction stage is part of the grant.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
that was the last one.
Okay. Thank you. And Jeff, I don't know process-wise if you have any advice in the past. I mean, some of these where we have to go back and check on questions or comments from the public, if we can get back to them after the meeting with responses to those questions.
Yeah, some of the items, such as a budget question, those are items that I can discuss with the staff, and we do have their contact. I can get back to these folks individually just to give them information on a budget question like that. Some of the other comments are more opinion-based, and again, it's public comment. There's no obligation to get into a full discussion back and forth on something that your opinion versus their opinion. But the other items I can easily check into and provide that information back to the residents.
Right. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on to regular approvals. The minutes of the June 8th, 2020 meeting, Board of Supervisors meeting.
Make a motion to approve the June 8th, 2020 minutes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Disbursements for June 22nd, 2020.
I move that we approve the disbursements for June 22nd, 2020 as submitted.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Joe, I think there were a
Yep.
couple comments.
Yep, Jen, you want to run with the questions I had?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Black Cipher, there was a $3,000 invoice. This is the cyber monitoring service that we currently have, but is being eliminated at the end of the contract, which is July 2020. I believe there'll be one more invoice. This was
Right.
the June invoice that we were paying. Construction Masters, there was a $52,055.50 invoice. This was a paving project. This was a third party that we used to help pave. This is the rental of the paver, other equipment, as well as a 5-man paving crew to operate the paver. Mast Roofing, $18,647.32. This is for a roof replacement at the magistrate and tax office building. This was actually an insurance claim and was due to some high winds that we had probably about 4 to 6 weeks ago. So most of this money is actually coming back to us. I think we're getting $12,000 or $13,000 back in insurance. And there was a quote process done on this, not a bidding process. So we received 3 quotes for this. Hopewell Trucking, $47,700, which was for mulch grinding at Trout Run, and it included 8 days of grinding mulch.
Thanks, Jen.
Very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Aye, subject to audit.
Subject to audit. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Michelle. Treasurer's report for May 2020. I know we had a public comment on this, and Jen, I didn't know if you're going to comment on that, or as Jeff said, we can always get back to, I think, Mr. Carmello later. I think that was something on page 2, but I didn't have it open in front of me.
I can comment. I saw this earlier and I did the appropriate research. So he was asking about page 2, shows the wastewater sale proceeds fund. There are future expenses shown of $14 million. There are 2 more projects, I'm going to call them, that are coming out, slated to come out of the wastewater proceeds. It would be the OPEB trust for $9.7 million, which is the other post-employment benefits trust that we are establishing to pay for future health care for retirees. And also $4 million worth of debt payments for the Series 2007 sewer bonds that were not callable at the time of the time of the sale. So those will take place later this year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Well, I move that we accept the treasurer's report subject audit for May of 2020.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Unfinished business, discussion on community park. Yeah, I think we had a couple conversations on that. Clarence, I don't know if you want to summarize. You've given some tours of the property, had us down there, and we know what kind of shape it's in. So, any comments on that?
All I would say is just to report that 4 of you were down there to see the park and the condition of it. Again, I can just tell you that the pavilion that is the restroom area and lunch area and part as a small pavilion is in horrendous shape. The restrooms are not to the point where I think you can really do much with them as far as bringing them back to make them decent. The large pavilion, same situation. It's very low, so you can't keep the kids off the roof, for one. Another issue is the roof boards are in pretty bad shape. They've knocked holes through the roof numerous times. If you go there, you can see a lot of the patchwork done with the shingles. So also a lot of the playground pieces that are there are not considered by the insurance company to be wanted by that, something you should not have at the playgrounds anymore. They've outlived their time as far as what you're allowed to have. So that's the basic gist of the whole park. Again, what we are asking is if we could possibly remove the two buildings and remove the park, the playground area, turn it into just a grassy open space where they can have their picnics, but they would not have restrooms and they wouldn't have a pavilion. The basketball court could still be allowed to be there, I guess. It's in good enough shape that could be allowed to stay there. The tennis courts do not belong to us. They belong to the school board, or to the school district, rather. So whatever. Also, one of the other thoughts is maybe the school district wants it back and wants to take back the lease, but one way or the other, we would have to get out of that lease, or we feel we should no longer try to spend any money in repair of the buildings. So I guess that's where we're at.
I agree with Clarence. I took a tour of it, I guess, a week and a half ago, and I mean, it's disappointing how people have treated the facility, and for us to keep putting money into trying to maintain it, it just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I was with Clarence on Saturday, Clarence, Larry, and myself, and I echo what Clarence said. Unfortunately, it's a shame that it's destroyed and, the condition that it's in. And even the rides, I think, are unsafe. That one slide,
right. They're no longer.
Somebody's going to knock their teeth out. I mean, it's bad all over. Maybe we could salvage some of the playground equipment, move it to Farming Ridge or Lorraine Hollow, but those pavilions need to definitely come down and make it a green space. People can have a picnic there, and they have the basketball courts and the tennis courts still. So I think that's the safe thing to do and the right thing to do. And then in 4 years, if the school district wants the lease back, we could let them have it.
In fairness to the buildings, though, they were built in 76, so they've outlived their usefulness as far as just in disrepair. So it's not that at one time they were great pieces of great buildings, but they're just not there anymore. They're just too.
When you look at the bathrooms, though, Clarence, that's not because they were built in 76.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Because they haven't been taken care of. I mean, people are vandalizing them.
Yep.
Well, just a couple things, and I was down at the facility as well. I agree with Clarence. I mean, you said there was 4 sinks that have been destroyed in there, and it's in general disrepair. You need roofs, you need pillars, both bathrooms need to be redone. And again, we're replacing something that's not even ours, which to me doesn't make sense. What I'd like to do as the liaison with the school district is reach out to the board and discuss with them what at least our intentions are. We haven't made a final decision that it would be more of a tear down because, again, we're not going to put money into it, especially with 5 years remaining, and to see if they would have interest in taking the lease over because they may want the facility. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would be surprised.
Well, I think last year, Clarence, didn't Granger meet with the superintendent?
I believe Laura
and the St. Lawrence manager.
Yeah.
Were you there, Lori, for that?
Yeah. Yes, I was.
It's a different superintendent.
Different superintendent, yeah.
Yep, they have a new
but-
superintendent, John.
That's understood, but still, I think the point was they didn't want it, so I just think we need to
Yeah.
do the right
You
thing.
have a new board and a new superintendent, so I agree. I don't think they will either, but
Do the due diligence, talk
Yep.
to
One at
see
a
what
time.
happens. But yeah, then whatever we need to do from a lease
Yep.
perspective. Yeah.
I agree with, basically everyone, and especially Clarence about the kiddie area. Those, kiddie toys or kiddie rides or whatever you want to call them, they definitely have to come down, Clarence.
Yeah.
I'd have my children on those at all. And it's a shame. That was a beautiful park. And now it just, I agree, it all has to be torn down, you know, as soon as we can. And I can't see putting any more money in it. I went down and the people are just driving down in their cars and they park there for a little bit. Another car comes down and then they leave. It's just not I don't feel safe place the way it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what everyone said there, where you turn it back into grass and take it down, but, you know, first have a discussion, go through the motion and have a discussion with the school district. Do they want any parts of it? And if not, you know, is there anything we can do to, you know, shorten the lease, or, you know, if we want to do that, or at least take it back to grass area, which is very easy to maintain if they want us to finish out the lease.
We'd have to maintain the grass, Clarence, right, still?
And perhaps the school would want it for some other use, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can,
Bus barns.
and out with them where they maintain even the grass and we pay them to do it. I know it's their property, but we're stuck with the bill one way or another, but maybe they can do it for less money using their own people. When I was there, they cut half of it. The other half we do. So maybe you can say, hey, can we come up with a number so we can just be done with this?
Yeah.
And we do have to, if you do that, so they don't keep picnicking. There's no fires down there, because even if you take those little barbecues that are around there, they'll still start them on the ground.
Yeah, you're right, Michelle. They got to go too, those barbecue things.
Yeah. So, who's gonna reach out to the school district?
Joe's going to do that.
I will, Dave.
Okay, and then pending that, I guess pending that discussion, we're gonna authorize, you know, moving ahead with removing the structures.
I would guess that would be at the next meeting. Let Joe do his thing and see how it goes, and
Yep.
and have something on the agenda with a recommendation.
Okay. I'll reach out to him tomorrow.
Very good. Are you good with that, Jeff?
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I visited the park and echoing all your comments. It really, it's outlived its usefulness, and the fact that it's not in the township, our police don't monitor it. It really is ripe for a lot of vandalism and a lot of out-of-town folks coming in there utilizing it, and it's really more of a liability than a benefit for our township any longer. I believe when that park was first there, we did not have township parks the way we do now, and I think our resources, you know, speaking with Clarence about it, I think our resources could be used a lot more efficiently and better working on our parks that we actually own.
Thank you. Okay, we're good to move on?
Yep.
Next item under unfinished business, it reads, authorize the purchase of parcel at Gibraltar Road, Exeter Scenic River Trailhead. I think that's really should be authorized in negotiation. Little background on this. I don't know, is Will there? Is Will going to cover this, or Joe, or Clarence, or?
I think Will has got, I mean, we're not going to discuss any of that, but you need to have, we do have some numbers finally from Deterk. So that would be something, I guess Sam would have to.
Yeah, I would recommend discussing the numbers in the public setting. I think that my understanding, Dave, is you're looking just for an overview of what the three parcels are and what.
Yeah.
is being asked to consider.
I can add to that. Currently, we were looking at doing a master plan, or we had a master plan done for the Trout Run facility. And one of the options is to put a secondary access road in with some additional parking. Currently, there's 3 properties. 2 are owned by the Bible, Dr. Nicholas Bible and the Bible Group, and one is owned by Clarence. Correct me if I'm wrong. That the people that with the boat ramp. Reeser.
Yeah.
Sorry. Those properties are prime for us to acquire, since it'll help the park. It'll allow us direct access. We can extend that road if we plan to in the future, as well as add additional parking in that area. Reesers have expressed strong interest in selling their property. Right now, the boat ramp, PennDOT put the boat ramp in as part of the Gibraltar Road Bridge. Be a good opportunity for us to at least discuss and negotiate the acquisition of these properties, that we could utilize them for the future expansion of the park area.
Thanks, Jeff. So I think where we're at, we have some appraisals. We did some research. We know what the, approximate, what we think the value is worth, but we haven't initiated any discussion with the owners. So I believe the next step would be to have a discussion with the owners and see where we're at and what they're thinking.
I'll make a motion to authorize the administration to negotiate the purchase of parcel at Gibraltar Road, Exeter, Scenic River Trail property.
I'll second that.
I have a question, please.
Sure, go ahead, Michelle.
My concern, Clarence, involves if that road goes in, is this going to be a public access road to get around there quicker? Or
That is the long-term intent, yes, is to put another access to get into the park, which would make it a much nicer and easier way of getting out of the park itself.
Well, then I'd like to see that before we do anything, because I have concerns then if that's going to be used if it gets completed, it's going to be all the children there, and you know how busy it got once all the fields are used. And I don't want to have a bunch of trucks running through there.
Oh, no. Okay, I see what you're saying about, okay. Yeah. Okay.
That was a problem before.
Yeah. Well, there was never a road there before.
But still.
Yeah, I mean, there's never a road.
But Clarence, correct me if I'm wrong, I would guess that this would be like other park accesses that we can close this road. It's not going to be a thoroughfare.
You can do whatever you want, yeah.
Okay, so that it can be made that there's no thoroughfare.
Yeah, you can actually do that, yeah.
There's no trucks on it.
That can be part of, yeah, it's.
Because I don't want to see anything happen.
Also, probably as much as anything, I mean, that's down the road quite a few years. Our biggest issue right now is the parking for the trail itself. Okay. And we want to add to that, and we can't, we're stuck, we can't move. Well, what parking we have down there now is all we have. And
I know.
So that would be something we could improve on by quite a bit. So.
Okay, well, can you just do a little drawing, or I can come down and you can show me exactly where I feel better?
Yeah, we have, I think there are plans on that. So yeah, we can show you all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
I think this fits right into the master plan that we've been talking about for the Trout Run complex. So I think this is something that we talked about a long time. So glad we're making some progress.
That include also the coal.
No.
That's a silt basin.
That was a subject. Yeah, that's a different subject.
That's a whole.
Yeah, Michelle, that's on the other side of Trout Run.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with what we're
I know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Dave, I was going to say, Dave, I again, with, do we have a second for Greg's?
We do. We had Greg, and then we had John. John second that.
And then the only thing is just, again, all we're going to do is reach out because one of the two folks that owns the properties has reached out to us, but my understanding is the second one has not. So really, it's just reaching out to gauge levels of interest. So it'll really be no harm, no foul if we can pull it off, and we can add some value down there, and we can make sure that we protect the kids and block it off from trucks and cars and things of that nature. So I would be in favor of it, doing it that way.
Okay.
Very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. New business, authorize advertisement of amendment to the parking ordinance 360-14. This is Clapperthal Road. Chief, were you going to cover this one, or?
That's fine. We've been experiencing a high number of calls along Clapperthal Road for parking violations. Our officers went out there earlier in the year and placed temporary no parking signs there. Since then, we've probably seen in excess of 25 calls for illegal parking. Our officers have issued over 50 parking citations along Clapperthal Road there for people parking there to use the trailhead there. Apparently, if you look up Berks County and you do a search via Google, it'll tell you that one of the most scenic trailheads is that trail. And unfortunately, people are parking illegally there. The residents along the road there aren't able to sometimes get out of their driveways, and it creates a problem if we ever need to get emergency vehicles down Clapperthal Road to reach the trailhead. So we've asked in the previous meeting if we could advertise this, and it was approved to have the permanent no parking signs installed there.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we need a motion to authorize the advertisement.
I'll make a motion to authorize the advertisement to the amendment of parking ordinance 360-14 on Clapperthal Road.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to mention the Conservation District does want to put a bike rack down there. We also are working on some kind of mapping system to put a notice at the beginning of Clapperthal, letting people know they can park down at Trial Run and come up through to get to there. Hopefully, with all that, maybe we can get more people to bike in, and instead of trying to drive cars in there, which is just crazy. It's an extremely tight road. So those are things that they are working on, trying to improve the situation.
Yeah, that would be excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Authorize advertisement of the July Board of Supervisor meetings. Couple comments, I guess, that we've heard, both pro and cons against this, but just to mention, I think everyone probably got their PSATs magazine. There's a good article in there. I know Jen showed it to me, and then I read some more about it. And basically what the state was saying is that, going green is not pre-COVID green. It's a modified green. They're anticipating that we're not going to be back to green before probably 2021 at some point. So there are a lot of social distancing. Green is not just open for everything. So there's a lot of things we have to consider. I think some comments made by the public comment were quite good as far as, microphones and other communication is difficult already. So we have to have a venue that has that, and I think we'll be moving to a modified system, but just wanted to point out that green is not green, and depending on what we choose, some type of partial, whether it's a virtual, indoor, in-person, or whatever, I think is what we need to discuss of when we're comfortable moving to the next step. But just going green, I think the main thing, it does not mean we just go back to normal meetings. So
Yeah, I'll
I'll
make
open
a
that up
motion.
for discussion to the rest of the board.
I think you summed it up good. I'll make a motion to authorize the advertisement of July Board of Supervisors meeting July 13th and July 27th to be held virtually as we're doing now.
I would like to comment.
I'll second the motion though first, then
Okay.
I feel that this should have been worked on before to get ready because we've had an ongoing problem as far as microphones and speakers and rostrums and whatever. But we're going to have to get back. We have the space at the Reading Country Club to hold them. And we need to open it up to the public eventually. And I'm not saying coming in here without masks or whatever. But lately I've been reading quite a bit on COVID, and I don't see that you're going to get COVID, from what I'm reading, that it hangs on tables or chairs or anything. I am just worried about the public not being able to ask their questions. I don't like the idea that they have to call up by noontime. So you have time to get their answers together. They don't get an answer at the meeting right now. They have to wait till they get an answer. And I think we have to take some time to think about what we're facing, and that the people have a right to ask questions and know what's going on too. I'm not saying pack them in, but I think we should have the opportunity to reach out to the public other than this way.
Have to follow the guideline.
Comment.
Yeah.
You have to follow the guidelines.
Wait, hold on, John. Michelle, are you done?
I thought you were done, Michelle.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we have to follow the guidelines, like Dave said. You know, green doesn't mean everything's open. Green, there's still rules where I think you're only allowed 25 people. You have to sanitize as the first caller on the public comment. You got to sanitize every piece of equipment after we leave, which is going to, cost money. So we have to be safe, Michelle. And
I
unfortunately,
am being safe.
you're not a doctor.
One at a time.
About the wood and that. So I'd rather go by the CDC guidelines and the governor's guidelines than anybody off the street that thinks they have the answer to everything.
Yeah, and maybe one other comment, John, let me just jump in here. So me, as far as meeting location, I would think that we're going to go to some type of hybrid system, as I said. So right now we're purely virtual. I think we will get to the point till we choose a location where there will be maybe one or two supervisors present. Right now, we can't have a desk where we're all sitting arm to arm with the staff and everything else. So we could have some public there with a couple supervisors. We're going to move to that. The question is when. So we'll probably be a multi-step process here. As far as location, Reading Country Club wasn't designed for this. And long-term, it's investing a lot of money in a system at the country club does not make sense because that's not the long-term use of that property. And we're not ready to do that right now. So in my mind, that leaves us with the township building. I think we should figure out how many safely can be in that room with 6-foot circles around everyone, whether it's supervisors and staff at the front. And I think we have some rough numbers on that. But the question is, for me, when we can move from virtual to a hybrid system, we're not going to just be able to just say, okay, next meeting, we're just going back to normal.
Yeah, I think we keep July as virtual, then have Jeff and his team come back to us with some ideas.
Okay,
I'm good with that.
that's fine.
Okay, so we had a first and a second for July. Any further discussion? Would anyone else like to comment? All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
You were opposed, Michelle?
Yes, Dave.
Okay, one opposed. Okay. Discussion on recreation events and facility field rentals. Laurie, you were going to cover this one?
Yep, I can cover that. So with the,
Can you move the agenda, Laurie, please?
oh yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay, thank you.
So with the tentative move to green per the governor's announcement this Friday, I just wanted to discuss a few options and what that's going to mean going forward for our parks and our rental facilities and upcoming events. So I'm just going to go kind of through one by one. My recommendations at this point are, as of Monday, to start reopening, and we may start as of Friday, but I don't anticipate being able to get it all done in one day, but reopening basketball courts, but posting signage encouraging social distancing, and I posted some similar signage on tennis courts, so just encouraging safe play and hand sanitizer, that type of thing. So basketball courts would reopen at our parks. That's the main change. As far as the things that should remain closed based on our ability to clean and sanitize and just having the manpower to maintain our facilities to the level that they need to be. My recommendation at this point would be that we maintain the restroom facilities as closed, so we do not open the restrooms at the parks, mainly because the level of cleaning that would need to occur, it's a serious manpower issue for that. They would really need to be cleaned several times a day, and we just really do not have the ability to do that. So with that, I would also suggest that our pavilion rentals and the Dunn Community Center, for the same reason I just mentioned, that they maintain they stay closed through at least the end of the emergency order, unless information changes between now and then. But I would say, while these restrictions are still in place, Dave touched on it, green does not mean full go back to normal, everything's fine, there's no risk anymore. We still would be required to maintain a very high level of sanitizing, cleaning, and we don't have the ability to do that in between pavilion rentals, and certainly not in between several Dunn Community Center rentals that occur each day back to back. So those are my recommendations specifically for our rental facilities. I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments on that first before I move on to my recommendations for sports fields that I have a separate set.
A question I have, do we even have supplies like the hand sanitizer, the wipes? And do we have enough supplies even? For our internal operations, I would say probably yes. Clarence can correct me on that if I'm wrong. I would say yes. As far as for the level of sanitizing that would need to happen at the parks and at the Dunn Center, I would say no.
I mean, there's no way you can do the playground stuff. I mean, you'd be doing that all day long. I mean, same way with the restrooms. It would be, you'd almost have to have somebody at each part stationed there all day long. If you're going to if you're actually seriously going to do this, otherwise you're just, you're not really doing the job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the playground equipment itself was a topic that I was going to ask for the board's input on, because that is a slightly less of a clear-cut answer, I would say. Some places are reopening them, some places are not. We can post signage. At the recommendation, I would have to go over it with our insurance company, and I would probably ask for Sam's input on that as well. But we could post signage there. I mean, people are going to use it. It's not like we can lock it up and really block it off. People are going to use it if they want to use it. It would just be a matter of whether or not we take down the playground closed signs, or if we leave them up and tell people play at your own risk. That's a point for discussion, I would say.
I also have concerns with the basketball courts being open. You have a lot of physical contact in basketball, and generally if you have guys out there, you have shirts and skins playing. I just have a lot of concerns with the basketball.
Where are the basketballs, Lori? Community Park, Lorraine Hollow?
Community Park, Lorraine Hollow, Farming Ridge.
So there's three basketball courts.
Pineland Park.
Oh,
we have them. Yeah, we have them everywhere.
Oh, we have 5 actually. Yeah, we have a lot of courts all over, Greg.
Yeah. Do we have any clear understanding of liability with that?
I don't have a clear answer. Everything that I was proposing tonight, I actually have a note here written. Everything I'm proposing, I would recommend be subject to my reviewing the full plan with our insurance company and sharing it with Sam as well to get their input, just to make sure that we're okay. As far as the basketball courts go, what I will say now, just because other places are doing it doesn't mean that we have to. The guidance that I've been referring to and relying on, the recommendation has been that basketball courts can reopen in green, but of course that's up to your discretion because they're just baseline guidance. They're saying this is the minimum that you can do, so green was the absolute earliest that those types of courts could open. We could discuss potentially opening half courts instead of putting all of the hoops back up if we wanted to go that route. I've been getting a lot of calls asking for basketball courts to reopen those, so I'll just put that out there as well.
I would say, Laurie, I mean, definitely I'd like to, certainly check with our insurance company to see if they know what else is going on other locations. And I don't know, Jeff or Clarence, if we can check with PSATs to I'm sure this is another topic that's being discussed among all the townships as to what's the best practice for moving forward here, whether it's signage or.
Yeah, I don't think we really can make an educated decision until we do talk to the insurance companies and get their take, and then also see what PSATs has to say. I mean, we're still not even in green. I think that's Friday, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So at that point in time, then there's going to be that curve of what's going to happen next, and how are we going to react to it? I think it may be better where Laurie and Jeff and Clarence have the ability to speak with the insurance companies and PSATs and other township managers and staff, and then in 2 weeks come back and say, this is the consensus, this is what's going on, this is what the insurance company's saying, this is the direction I feel we should take. That would be, to me, the direction that I would want to take. As Greg said, I mean, there's so much potential liability and there's so much unknown. You just, when you think about playground equipment, you have 100 kids touching it, but the parents are too, and where were they? And you're tracing all these people and all this stuff. So it's very, very difficult. And then you have there's a certain level of fear across the board, which understandable. So I would prefer that we get the information from insurance companies, PSATs, and the other townships before we decide which direction and keep everything as is until then.
My inclination with the tennis courts is you can do that safely.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball is a different animal. There's a lot of physical contact.
Now I'm sure you could post, individual practice or limit numbers, but I mean, you're not going to be able to police that.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, again, you could still, but if you're sitting there saying that it's not for 10 on 10, 5 on 5, I mean, as opposed to just, 2 kids going in there shooting, playing horse. I mean, that's a different situation where you're just getting it and shooting around and having some fun as opposed to a true game.
Yeah. And
again, too, I think we have to err on the side of conservatism and make sure from a liability perspective that we protect the township.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do about field rentals? Because basketball basically is the same as, field rentals are going to want also a lot of fields. We always have a problem with them filling up the fields. So I think you have to make it all or none. Otherwise you'll get people saying, well, I want this. If you can have basketball, you can have that. So.
Well, I don't know that I would agree with that, Michelle, because every sport is different. And I'm sure insurance is going to recognize that and so forth. And I would think PSATs would recognize it as well. But again, I agree with Joe in that we need more information. I don't think we just want to use our own personal knowledge of COVID to make this decision.
Yeah, I see what the insurance company and our legal counsel says, what our risk is if something does happen.
Yeah, thanks, John. And I think we got to keep abreast of our neighboring townships. You know, when they started opening the beaches and Delaware and Maryland, Stone Harbor weren't coordinating, then everyone flocks to one location. You know, so if one township opens their basketball courts and no one else is open, everyone's going to be there.
Yep.
So it's going to make the situation worse. So we just got to figure out what our neighbors are doing as well.
And when we say not
Can I give you an example? Over in Lower Alice, they opened up their basketball court, the new one there by the Harvey Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And at night, they must have 50, 60 kids in that small area.
Yeah.
I mean, they pack them in there.
But when we say close, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
So that should, and that's what's going to happen. I mean, just everybody's going to want to play, so it's going to be tough to control that.
We take the nets off, right? The whole.
Right now, they can't play. Right,
Okay.
there's nothing there to play with. Yeah,
I'm worried that if we just have the hole, people are still gonna flock there. So.
Oh, yeah. No, the whole thing is off.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood.
Some of the courts lock. The ones that don't lock, we removed the rim.
Okay, good. That's all I was concerned with, is people could still sneak in and play, but as
Yeah.
long as
Yeah.
it's off down, we're good.
Okay, so I'll gather some additional information, and I'll speak with the insurance company and with Sam, and I'll come back with some additional information for the next meeting. So the only thing I would ask then, we do have I've been canceling Dunn Center and Pavilion reservations as we come up to them, and right now that's through July 5th. So I would just ask, my recommendation would be to cancel for the entire month of July so that people have some notice, and they're getting refunds, but that would be my inclination to do. Alternatively, I could cancel through the next board meeting until we have a decision, but my inclination on the facility rentals would still be, we don't have the resources to clean them sufficiently between parties, so I would say at least through July if the board would be amenable to that.
I'll make a motion to cancel the rentals for the facility rentals through the end of July.
I'll second that.
What's the impact, Lori? Do you have that? Just how many rentals, the dollar amount?
I don't have that prepared. I can get that to you.
Yeah,
many
sure
have
thing.
already canceled. I can tell you, and I did run the numbers briefly. I just don't have the exact figures with me, but we did run the numbers briefly, and it would cost me like 3 times more to clean the facility than we would make in revenue of having the parties.
If you could just circulate that to the whole board, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yep.
To me, that the dollar amount isn't really what matters. I think it's a safety issue, and I think we need to be leaders in terms of safety.
Yeah, no, I'm talking, Greg, more along the lines of to have that data this way when you have friends and people that reach out to you or reach out to me or the other board members, will have something intelligent to talk to. It's a good data point for us to have as a board member.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all. Yeah, you're right. I don't care about the dollar amount. I just want the data to be able to intelligently explain as residents come up to me and complain, hey, how come you guys canceled the Dunn Center?
Very good. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Anything else, Laurie, on that?
I have one brief thing. Well, it should be brief anyway. The next large event that we have on the calendar coming up would be our fall festival. And those of you who were on the board last year, I think remember that it was we changed the format of it last year, and it became much more large scale, which we loved, and that's exactly what we want the event to be. With the current circumstances and the restrictions in place, I have some concerns about being able to safely pull off an event in that type of format. Obviously, we are restricted still at this point, and who knows by October where we will be, but if we're restricted to events of 250 people or less, that would be really challenging. So I am curious to hear the board's thoughts on it, and I would also suggest that what I can do in lieu of a large-scale event such as Fall Fest, if the board would decide that it's not a good year to try to hold an event in that type of festival format, that I could instead be flexible and plan some smaller scale pop-up type events. Maybe we could still do a hayride at some point. Things that don't require as much front-end planning that I can do with less staff and less notice and less people, but still be able to provide something for the community should our restrictions continue to lift and we be able to do things safely. So
What date were you thinking for that fall festival, Lori?
it's the Columbus Day weekend, so it's October, and it was intended to be at the Daniel Boone Homestead.
The same as last year.
Laurie, when would you start planning that?
Frankly, we're a little behind the curve because of COVID already. I would have had at least initial things lined up. So we're a little behind already. So I would really need to get into full scale. If we're thinking we're going to do the event as planned, I would need to get full-fledged into planning now.
My personal inclination would be that we wouldn't have it again because of safety reasons.
I think we're going to have to look at, like you said, Lori, the pop-up events, do like a couple, 3 or 4 little events.
Absolutely.
And bite the bullet this year with big events. With COVID, I just don't think it's realistic.
Yeah.
We could still do something at the homestead, maybe like a scavenger hunt with some X number of kids based off the, something like that. But,
yeah, absolutely. I can certainly, I'm not suggesting we don't do anything at all, but exactly like you're saying, I think smaller things and not trying to plan a big event where we want to attract a lot of people to it, but we can do smaller things.
I don't want to see a lot of planning and work into something that has a slight chance of being pulled off, especially for safety concerns. There's just, again, too, there's said green's not green. There's only a certain number of people. There's all these limitations, the cleanup, the sanitizing, the liability, all those things. It's just,
right.
Unfortunately, we're just going to have to punt on a lot of stuff this year for safety reasons and precautionary reasons.
Yeah, good points, Joe. I mean, you could put a lot of planning into this, and then we have a slight relapse, and
there's the second wave of COVID, then we're all homebound again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I didn't hear a ultimate decision, but I guess try to work on some type of events that we think we could handle.
Yep.
Okay.
But Fall Fest as it existed last year, we will cancel that.
Yeah. Do you need a motion for that?
I don't know that I need a specific motion to cancel that. It's just for an event.
That's my feeling. That's what you should do.
I don't think that I need a motion.
No, just discussion like we're having.
Yeah.
I don't hear anyone strongly opposed.
I agree. I agree with Greg. So, Michelle, what's your thoughts?
Doesn't need a motion.
No, what's your thoughts on the whole?
Well, I think we have to wait and see. Yeah, it's a shame. Look what happened this past year with Easter.
Yep.
We had all that planned and I did all that work and it's still not bad to think of some ideas, but some easy ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. We can certainly come up with, and I say we, but I mean, everybody else does all, everyone helps, but yeah, the intent is to come up with smaller creative ideas where we can hopefully get some people together and have some things for the community to do without putting people at risk.
Yep.
And then you'll send us the data and then give us more information for next meeting. Thanks, Lori. Great job.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, authorization for the township to acquire permanent storm sewer easements for the Butter Lane Culvert replacement project.
I can give a little bit of a background. This is the Exeter Butter Lane Culvert replacement project that was scheduled for this year to go out to bid. We need to acquire 2 permanent easements, one from the upstream property owner and one from the downstream property owner. This serves as two purposes. One, the easement would allow our contractor to do some stabilization of the embankment area and the installation of our concrete head wall and end wall, as well as allow the township in the future to access that culvert if we ever need to perform any type of maintenance services on that storm pipe. This is a 360-inch pipe, so they're very large. And the upstream end, we are doing some considerable improvements. We're installing a large size head wall with wing walls and doing some stabilization of the embankment area. It's been washing out near the property owners, and this will allow our contractor to get in there to perform that as part of the project, as well as replacing the culvert, and also we'll be able to maintain that in the future. And seeking authorization, we did prepare the legal description as well as the accompanying plans, forward that to the solicitor's office. They in turn prepared the necessary legal documents, and I'm looking for a motion from the board this evening to allow us to proceed with the acquisition of those easements.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Update on the Community Communications Committee.
We had our first electronic newsletter go out this month. I think that was after the last meeting, wasn't it, Lori? That was sent out?
Yes. Yes, it was.
So we had our first one go out. And I don't know, do you want to comment on anything else with it?
Sure. Yeah, I can. I pulled a little bit of data right before the meeting. So from that newsletter that went out, we had a 68% open rate, which that tells me how many people opened the email that they received from us. We reached over 1,000 people on social media when I posted the newsletter itself on social media, and we are up to 356 subscribers. And I'm really hoping that that number will go up when I hope to have the quotes for the postcards that we discussed at the last meeting for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's all. I don't have anything else.
Very good, thank you. Department reports. Chief?
I don't have much. I just wanted to give Sergeant Benson, the traffic unit, kudos. Kudos. They had a motor carrier truck inspection detail last Thursday that went really well for the department. The traffic unit, along with 6 other agencies, had the detail behind the township building there. And we had 67 violations, put 3 trucks out of service, and issued citations totaling in excess of $13,000 in fines. So it was an extremely a good event. We got some trucks off the road that should not be operating, so it went well. In addition, I'm excited. We currently have a cadet in the police academy, Frank Santiago. He was previously approved to be an officer here for the township. He's graduating from the academy this Thursday. So we'll be, myself and the command staff will be heading over to that graduation. In addition, Nicholas Davey, who is the other approved hire, he's currently a Hazleton police officer. Both of them will be starting on Monday, so we're happy to have them on board. And hopefully when we get back to normal meetings, we can introduce those folks.
Great.
Excellent. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chief.
Joe?
Just 2 quick items. As a follow-up to our last board meeting, we did receive some information from Borton Lawson in reference to the Gibraltar Road, Shelbourne Road intersection improvements project. This is the second project that's next to the Gibraltar Road Bridge. Both projects will be done simultaneously. However, they are treated as separate 2 projects. They needed our input in regards to two options they're looking at for traffic control. The first option would be they have to reconstruct the intersection to improve the geometry. The first option would consider closing partially the intersection and having a temporary traffic light. This would be through a duration of at least 12 weeks, could cause some delays and could potentially have this project carry over into another construction season. Currently, it's only scheduled for one construction season. The other option would be to close the entire intersection, allow the contractor to perform the reconstruction. This would be a 6-week duration. The negative impact would be it would be a longer detour route, the potential for motorists to use secondary roads as well as emergency services. I prepared a generalization of these two options and forwarded to the township staff as well as to the police department. And having discussed with the staff as well as the emergency services and the police department, our recommendation would be option number 2, which would allow for the intersection to be closed. Although it would be a 6-week duration, however, this will allow the contractor to get it completed in a more timely manner, hopefully during the summer months when school buses are not in services, and this would prevent a time overrun into the following season. That we felt that this would be the lesser of the two options. Unfortunately, it has to be completed, and it is a difficult intersection because it seeks a high volume of traffic. However, we feel as though closing it and allowing the contractor to perform this work, I think in the long run, will get that intersection open back to the traffic. And our recommendation to the board is to consider that option number 2. If the board has any comments or questions, I'd be happy to answer for them. And then I will report back to Borton Lawson, who's the design consulting firm that's acting on behalf of PennDOT for the design and construction or design of this project.
I will be one of the ones in the detour, Joe. But I personally would prefer just the 6 weeks and be done with instead of it dragging into 2 construction seasons in dealing with it. I mean, obviously we would set up the detour routes. And again, I live in Farming Ridge, so I'm coming down that road all the time and crossing it. And I know it will create an inconvenience, but what are we going to do? So again, too, I would certainly take the advice of administration, but from someone who is on that road, I would just rather deal with it for 6 weeks and be done with it.
Okay.
I might be the only one saying that though. So
no, that's PennDOT's preferred option, but they are leaving to the discretion of the township, and that was the staff and our option as well. Close it for the 6 weeks, and then
you mean 6 months, not 6 weeks, right?
Just the intersection for 6 weeks. The project will be 6 months, but
right. Okay.
the bridge itself is going to be a detour. It'll be one lane movement, but the intersection was they changed it because originally they were going to keep the intersection open, but with the geometric configuration, they want to improve it. So it expanded that project a little more than what we were originally were led to believe.
Yeah, Clarence, if it's 6 months, I change my opinion.
It's going to be ugly no matter how they do it.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of cars on that road.
Yeah, no matter what they do, it'll be nice when it's over, though.
Yep.
That's the only thing you can say.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully that'll alleviate when it's finished the backups on Gibraltar every afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If that's the consent of the board, I will forward that information to PennDOT tomorrow morning.
Good.
Okay. All right. Just one last item. That any comments? We received an email from Alan Piper in regards to the TIP deadline for submission is July 6th. Just a reminder, if anybody, like I noted before, we have those 3 projects: the bridge project on 562 and these 2 projects for Shelbourne and Gibraltar that are scheduled and funding has been allocated. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sam?
Yep, I just want to announce that there was an executive session before this meeting to discuss real estate, personnel, and a litigation matter involving Callan Properties. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Sam. Clarence?
Just as far as the highway department, we're continuing to work on our paving projects. We are prepping Lincoln Road, Fairview Chapel and Spruce, getting those ready for paving. They just completed the bituminous seal coat up on Hartman, Wegman, Moyer, and Sadowski Drive. So we also finished the first round for the state mowing contract. And that's basically what they've been doing for the last couple of weeks, and we'll continue for the next couple of weeks.
Very good.
That's it.
Thanks, Clarence.
Yep.
Jeff, normally we'd have listed here as manager's report, but it's been a whole couple days now, so I don't know if I make any comments.
Well, what I can say is that my first full week last week was quite an adventure. The staff here has been very welcoming. They took me on tours of the facilities and the township roads, trying to get me up to speed on everything that's going on here. It's a very busy operation, and I'm really looking forward to working with them. I've had some discussions with groups like the fire company today about future funding for them. There's a lot of things going on here that I need to dig in a little more. Going forward, I would have no problem giving you a manager's report every 2 weeks. So for right now, things are going very well, and you'll hear a lot more from me down the road.
Very good. Thanks, Jeff. Public comment, Laurie.
Okay, we have just two. And the first one is from Vinnie Bianconi.
Good evening. I would like to welcome the new township manager to Exeter Township. I feel that the fact that you do not live in the township in no way affects or diminishes your ability to do your job. It should be your choice and your choice alone whether you move into the township. One thing I wanted to make very clear, there are about 5-6 residents who constantly have public comments. One who really likes to hear himself express his opinion. I want to make sure that everyone understands that they are the vocal minority. Their opinions do not reflect the majority of the township. They certainly do not reflect mine. The wastewater treatment plant is sold. It was in horrible condition. How long do we have to keep hearing about this? This is why the township can't progress and move forward. There are those who want to keep bringing up things we can't change. They are stuck and set in their ways. My hope is, with the new manager and those on the board who want to see improvement and move forward, to understand that there are positive changes to moving forward. The promenade is a great start. I'm sure with the financial background of Mr. Staub, along with the rest of the board's experience, there won't be a need to have taxes raised or dip into the $40 million. Along with Mr. Mascaro's generous donation and commitment to our fire department, we will have a great facility for the entire community to enjoy for years to come.
Very good.
Okay. And the last one is from David Hughes.
On each agenda presented for each meeting, you have a warning that tone and comments should be civil. You say, in the interest of maintaining order, civility, and brevity at our meetings, the following guidelines apply. 1. Substance and tone are expected to remain respectful. Comments containing profane or offensive language will not be read during the meeting. It appears that your concerns and admonishments are directed only to we, the public. Yet to allow Mr. Cusatis to continue his disrespectful tone and uncivil comments to colleagues and the public in general must stop. Mr. Cusatis is permitted to harass a colleague repeatedly, meeting after meeting.
Can you pause that a minute,
He
Laurie?
doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
He seems to enjoy
I
criticizing,
think it's a-
intimidating, and
I think it's
humiliating.
an attack.
Can you just pause that for a second? I just want to make a comment.
Yeah, he's
One
attacking.
thing about, John, let me just try to address this. I mean, we've talked about this in past meetings before, and this is a Board of Supervisors meeting, and public comment is directed at the entire board. If the public chooses to attack or, any individual, either on the board or the staff, we certainly have said, and we list in our meeting rules, that we will cut off that public comment. But it's not my decision, it's the board decision that we would, make a motion if we want to cut off a public comment if they're attacking any one individual. I think, we're, in this case, it sounded like, it's my job, I think, of this meeting to maintain order. Haven't always done that. John and I, Michelle, we've had discussions, and we'll try to keep that civil in the future. But
Agreed.
my comment here, and I don't know, Jeff, if you want to comment that, we said we're not going to allow individual attack of board members or the administration during public comment. So.
Well, it's the same character. He attacks everybody, not just me. He attacks you, Dave, and Jen Savage.
Well, and this is just one example, so I'm not singling you out, but we kind of have that meeting rule. So I just wanted to stop this comment at this point so we could have a discussion and say, what is our definition of this and how do we want to move forward on this? Not my decision, but I want to hear others' opinions.
If I could weigh in on this, I've been doing this for quite a few years, and this type of issue comes up at every public meeting that I've ever been involved with. And there are differences of opinion, but I do believe that everyone needs to be respectful. Board members of the public and the public of the board and the staff. I don't appreciate my staff being personally attacked on their abilities or what have you. If you have a comment, it's a public comment. You make your comment and we move on. It doesn't necessarily warrant a public discourse every time something comes up. Information that's asked for that cannot be provided immediately. There shouldn't be any expectation that a very detailed answer would be given on the fly on a very detailed subject. So to attack a staff member that doesn't have that information on the tip of their tongue, I think is really unjust to them and does not promote good cooperation between the residents and the staff. I personally don't appreciate comments that are made about me. I have broad shoulders, I can handle it, but if you really want to discuss something, you can contact me via email, and I will get back to you and I'll discuss something. But having personal attacks on people's abilities at a public meeting really doesn't have a good place. We do want the residents' input. There's no question about it. You have the right as the residents and taxpayers to give input at the meetings. However, it should not turn into a major public discourse back and forth, where people end up attacking each other. So I just hope that everyone will be respectful. I will do my best to try and mediate some of these situations and listen to the residents. I don't know the residents here. I'm going to get to know them, and I hope that they will give the board, my staff and myself respect, and we will be doing the same back to you, the residents.
Keep in mind,
Thanks, Jeff. And Dave, the one thing that I've seen on both sides when I was out in the audience is I think at times there was just a level of animosity. And again, we're talking both ways. I'm not pointing fingers or individuals because that's not the case at all. We're all going to have difference of opinions. There's no problem with that. It's just being respectful about their difference of opinions. I know every resident that reaches out to me via email, I respond to them. a comment with them, and it may be something like, we're going to have to agree to disagree on that. But I don't think it's just the residents to the board or the board to the residents. I think it also is the board to the board and the board to the administration. So I just think that everyone just needs to understand that there's going to be difference of opinions and just maintain that level of civility and respect at all times, even if we don't like the other opinion. And a lot of times it's not what's said, it's the delivery. And I believe we just need to be careful and kind of measure our tone at times. I know I will. I have always done it that way. And if anyone feels that I'm not doing it the way it should be, please let me know.
And I'll promise to do better as well. And another comment I just want to make about the individual, Jeff, just so you're aware, is that we did send this individual a letter in December that he was to watch his tone, watch his respect level. So this gentleman does have a letter from the board in December last year. It was last year's board. Dave and I were still on the board, but this gentleman does have a letter that I'll send you that we sent on behalf of the board to him, watching his tone in that. So again, for him to derail that, and he has to live by that letter, that he's to watch his tone and watch his behavior.
Yeah, and I don't want to do, thanks, John. I don't want to derail things here. I wanted to pause there, and it's up to the board here whether we want to continue this comment. I just wanted to have this discussion. It felt like a good time. Go ahead, Greg.
The one thing I would say is I don't think his point is unfair. I would just ask that he not use specific names.
Yeah.
Because if you take a look at the point is we should be treating each other with respect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, and in the past, names have been allowed to be used. That's trying to be curtailed. And I think rightfully so. But let's not forget what the point is, too. And I don't think we have, because everyone kind of echoed his point.
Yep.
Yeah. No, good comment, Greg. Sam, anything from your end?
No, I mean, it's up to you. It's up to the board, as you said, Dave, as to how you guys have to make a decision about how you want to proceed.
Yeah, no, it's up to everyone else. I'm fine with continuing with the message. I just wanted to have the discussion. Do you want to continue with the comment?
I'm fine with continuing with the comment.
Me too.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I am not, I'm going to start it from the beginning if that's okay with you, because I'm not 100% sure where it led off.
It appears that your concerns and admonishments are directed only to we, the public. Yet to allow Mr. Cusatis to continue his disrespectful tone and uncivil comments to colleagues and the public in general must stop. Mr. Cusatis is permitted to harass a colleague repeatedly, meeting after meeting. But he doesn't stop there. He seems to enjoy criticizing, intimidating, and humiliating citizens who venture forward to make public comments. He makes unsubstantiated statements declaring colleagues are wrong, citizens are liars, or information they discuss are falsehoods. He does all of this without offering a bit of evidence. Mr. Cusatis' adolescent behavior is outrageous from any perspective, and the board should censor him. He doesn't just damage the supervisor's role, which is to represent the public. His behavior reflects upon the other three gentlemen on the board as well. If the rules you are presenting to the public do not apply to supervisors, perhaps you need to adopt rules to mitigate your behavior as well, because it truly does reflect upon all of you. We ask Mr. Cusatis to resign from the board immediately.
Hey, Lori, Lori forwarded the statement to me. I want to indicate that that there were quotes that were used throughout in some instances that the voiceover didn't pick up. So I'll just so for purposes of accuracy, I'm just going to state that when the statement made his behavior reflects upon the other three gentlemen was in quotes with a capital G. And there were quotes that were put around the statement that he makes unsubstantiated statements declaring there's quotes wrong, citizens are quote liars, or information they discuss are quote unquote falsehoods, just for purposes of accuracy, because I don't think the computer voice generator word picked that up. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Supervisor reports. John.
I'd just like to welcome Jeff to the team. Yeah, interviews, I think you bring a lot to the table and a lot of great experience, and I think you're perfect for what the township needs right now with a lot of things that we have going on. So I just want to welcome Jeff. I know you had a good first week from what Clarence told me, so welcome to Exeter, and I think I'm excited that you're going to help move the township forward. Welcome to the township.
Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, second, welcome, Jeff. And just to give you some updates on the Reading Country Club, it's been a banner month so far this month, 2,787 rounds, which is trending to well over 3,500. On Tuesday night, and Jeff, you're not aware of this, they have a little tournament over there. It's a two-person scramble for the second consecutive week. It's going to be sold out, which is 30 teams. All of our golf carts are now in, so we have 75 total. Father's Day, we had 192 rounds, which is very, very, very strong. And our year-to-date revenue is now only $17,000 behind last year at this time. $260,000 last year, $243,000 this year. Keep in mind that we had 6 weeks where we were shut down. The Snack Shack, which was opened on May 18th, has brought in over $9,000 in revenue already. We are going some tournaments coming up, the Senior Club Championship. The old guys get out there and fight a little bit. And on July 11th, there's going to be the Heritage Tournament. So it's going to be, and kudos to Tom Walker for putting a lot of this together, but we'll be celebrating the Reading Country Club being placed on the National Historic Register. So before the tournament, there will be a moment where we'll be dedicating the plaque. We're going to be going green on Friday, so we will be revisiting restrooms, things like that, and we will share that. I'll get with Derek. I'm going to speak with Derek later this week, and Brian, and talk about the next steps, then talk with administration so we can discuss it at the next meeting. And then at that point in time, once Laurie has some more information as far as what PSATS is saying and talking about meetings, we'd like to then schedule a golf committee meeting. But until we have the specifics of how we'd really like to have it at the Reading, but also don't want it to be where we have to sterilize an entire building just so 10 or 15 of us can get together. So by the time we have the next meeting, we hope to have a date to schedule for that. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Michelle?
Well, I'd like to wish Jeff a good week next, since they all wished you. Hope you had a good week prior. I think you'll bring a wealth of good feeling to the township. And I think once you get to know everything that's going on and the people and you really feel at home, I think you'll fit right in here. And I'm looking forward to working with you, and so that we can get a lot accomplished. Because I don't think we got a whole lot accomplished in the first 6 months. But that's all. I'm just looking forward to working with you. And I have nothing else.
Thanks, Michelle. Greg?
Yeah, I just want to welcome Jeff, echo what everyone else said. And I also want to publicly thank Clarence for stepping in. I thought you did a great job in a difficult situation, and I appreciate all your efforts. I enjoyed working with you on the things that we worked on, and I look forward to working with everyone moving forward.
Thanks, Greg. In my comments, yep. Welcome, Jeff. It's good to have you on board. And I know a lot of challenges, a lot of priorities. We discussed, some of them tonight. There's a lot of other things going on in the background, but I think, please continue to work with your staff to work us through the rest of the COVID and how to get back to some sense of normalcy and how we proceed that way to where everyone feels safe and we can have the public involved. So I think we should have updates on that at each meeting, and it's going to be us continuing to discuss how we progress there. So, welcome again. And Clarence, one thing, any comments? Did we have something, any announcement on annual rescue league? Wanted to hold something?
They were up there Wednesday afternoon, right after the, and I believe they had like 5 vans of food that they gave away.
Okay.
Yeah.
I missed that, but that was it.
Yeah, it went pretty quick. So,
Okay.
Yeah, it went well. So
Good. Other than that, thanks everyone for continuing to work in this fashion and still getting things moving forward. So other than that, that's all I have. Take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Have a good night.
Right. Okay.